If one of these exponential bubbles pops in 2025, which I think it might, right? We need to look at a lot of things to come up with one. It's been a big year for Bitcoin. Trump was elected. A standard was made for Bitcoin. The CC changed and Dubai started to store Bitcoin. There are a few things that could set off a full-blown mania trend like the one we had in 2017. And if we do get into that, I don't think math really tells us that we'll stop at 200,000, 250,000, or 300,000. We could reach 500,000. Based on the power law, I believe that 500,000 would be the highest amount that can be earned in this area in the next 2 years. Why? The next Bitcoin bull run might be different from any other we've seen, and prices could reach $500,000. That's what Bitcoin expert and Wall Street veteran Fred Krueger thinks will happen. He said that a number of things, including Trump's possible re-election, Bitcoin becoming more popular as a currency, changes in US regulations, and Dubai's growing desire to accumulate Bitcoin could cause another Bitcoin boom in 2025. If these things come together, they might lead to a wave of excitement and buying on speculation, like what happened in 2017. If that happens, the price of Bitcoin could go through the roof and hit $500,000. But if Bitcoin hits these highs, it's likely that there will be a sharp drop in price. Now watch the whole movie to find out if Fred Krueger thinks there will be another Bitcoin bubble and if we should be worried. You guys should also know that not many of my viewers subscribe. If you like keeping up with banking news, you might want to subscribe or like the video. You can back out at any time for free. Now here's Fred Krueger's newest guess about Bitcoin. So halvings happen every 4 years and bear markets happen every say 12 to 16 months after that, right? If you stick with this line of thinking, I think you would say that the fourth half began in April 2024. So, 16 months later, in August 2025, the bear market should begin, just to be exact. And I think a lot of Bitcoiners are crazy about this for some reason or another. In fact, I think we should take a step back from this study because these three events are enough to scare us. The halves happen every 4 years because they are set to do so. A lot of people also think that the bear market might happen right after the split. Because of this, I believe there are two main points. I put these on a Twitter tweet too. The first question is whether or not we think that the halvings are what started the bull markets. Do we really think that they are the main cause of bull markets? It's amazing how powerful they are at making bull markets happen. Second, do we think this bull market will end quickly like the last three? Let's look at these questions on their own. This is the first question: how to divide. Do you care about the halves? Well, I would say that the first and second halves were very important since they cut a huge amount of supply. And especially before the first halving, there wasn't a huge aftermarket market for Bitcoin. That's how Bitcoin really came to be. So when this happened, massive supply shock and made a huge difference. If you go to not to 2028, there will be a supply shock, and I use the word supply shock in air quotes to mean going from 450 Bitcoin to 225 Bitcoin now. The price of Bitcoin may be much higher, but we're still talking about 200 Bitcoin per day. It wasn't even close to this much in 2016. At this point, 95% of Bitcoin has already been mined. I also don't think the supply shock will have as much of an effect. In this way, it's not clear that the next halving will lead to another bull market. I think that what will make it happen is probably just TradFi's ability to get money and use it, right? I'm not even sure about that. Okay, this is what I'm trying to say. The process that makes a bull market happen is having not very clear now how long did the bull market last, right? What do you think happens in these bull markets? There have been 3 of them so far. It's not a huge amount of information, right? We've had 3 bull markets, which means that prices have gone up at an unsustainable rate. It really is exponential. And I think Giovanni made a good point of this. It's kind of going up every day. It goes up by 1%. And it's just going to keep going up and up. The bubble is going to pop, and it does. It's not possible because you don't know when it will pop. But if there is a lot of fast vertical movement like there has been this year, it will pop, but you don't know when. And it's too bad that the power law doesn't really tell you when it will pop, since we still haven't had enough bubbles. And I think they're just famously hard to time. I also don't think math is a very good way to figure out when bubbles will pop. I believe the same is true for Bitcoin. That sounds like it's true for both cooking chicken, fish, and Nvidia. I'm not sure. There are many bubbles that are bubbles but can't tell when they're going to pop. At the same time, it's possible that the 2025 cycle will be different. There are more big players in the Bitcoin market now than there were in 2017. The market is also more stable. There might not be a crazy speculative bubble in 2025. Instead, Bitcoin could grow more slowly with steady gains after 2025. It might go on into 2026 and 2027. A well-known technical expert named Gert van Legen says it's likely that Bitcoin's price will rise by more than 472% in the next year. In one of his tweets, the trader explains that Bitcoin is currently following a step-like formation, which is made up of price consolidations and upward moves that look like steps in a rising trend. Van Legen sees an ascending widening wedge in this formation at the possible pre-breakout stage. As Van Legen says, this pattern is important to watch because it breaks to the upside 79% of the time and follows the previous trend 67% of the time. This study shows that the ideal price for Bitcoin is $300,000 per coin, which is 472.44% more than what it is now. Do you agree with this look at things? Share your thoughts below. Let's listen to Fred Krueger again as he talks more. It makes me wonder what will happen if we get caught in one of these exponential bubbles in 2025. I think we might, right? We need to look at a lot of things to come up with one. Things like Trump's election, the use of Bitcoin as a standard, and changes at the SEC, you name it. Dubai is beginning to store Bitcoin. There are a few things that could really set off a full-blown mania trend like the one we had in 2017. And if we do get into that, I don't think math really tells us that we'll stop at 200,000, 200,000, 250,000, or 300,000. We could reach 500,000. Based on the power law, I believe that 500,000 would be the highest amount in this case in the next couple of years. Why? Because 500,000 would be like twice the trend line, and none of the booms we've seen before went above 2 times the trend line. It doesn't look like it will happen. More than that, it looks like the fraction of the trend line is going down. I think 500,000 would be too much. In line with the power law, it is still. It's not likely that all of our models will break when you reach 500,000, but it could happen. Okay, it's possible that when it breaks, we will go back down through the trend line and settle about 1 standard deviation below. This is what happens when a bubble pops. Also, that would be really painful. That's 75% of the way back to the high point. It's going to be very bad. In any case, there could be no such thing as a speculative boom. We're not in one right now, right? Right now, we are 20% below the trend line. There are a lot more smart people getting into this market now than there were during the bubble in 2017. During the last bubble, there were a lot of plans like FTX.Dokkan that fell apart and could not last. Now we are getting more sustainability. So,